nervous. I didn't know what to expect or who would be here. So I'm presenting a topic that a very good friend of mine and I were speaking about recently. And I thought it would be nice to share. So I hope it doesn't come across as too intense. It seems it could be a little intimidating. Cancer is not something we usually like to speak about openly. And also the negative mindset is probably not something we usually speak about. But I'd like to start first with a question for reflection. And something you will learn about me very quickly is I like to keep things interactive, mainly because I'm so boring that if I just speak, you will all go to sleep and then it won't be a very exciting talk. So it's better if we hear you speak more. So I know these days no one takes pen and paper anywhere with them, but our teacher, Srila Prabhupada, I don't know, there's a picture of him there. He made this beautiful statement once that always impressed me. And he asked a group of persons like yourselves, he says, how many of you forget? And all of them said, me. Anyone here forgets? Anyone here forgets anything? Who here remembers what they were doing at this time yesterday? It's real easy to forget. Probably this is a monk. He does the same thing every day. He's the only one that can remember these things. So he said, if you want to remember, you only have to remember one thing. And what is that? He said, you have to remember to write it down. But of course, these days you have to remember where you wrote it down. So that's the difficulty. But I encourage as much as possible to write things down, because then what happens, even if you have your phones, you can open notes, like that. Just don't start WhatsApp messaging and doing all that kind of stuff. But I encourage you to write it down. So the first is a personal reflection for yourself. Just to really think to yourself, how often do you find yourself in what may be called a negative mindset? Yeah, so let's say if it's once a day, 10 times a day, once a week, once a month. Who here is not sure what I'm talking about when I say a negative mindset? Okay, everyone's pretty clear about what that means to be in a negative mindset? Okay. So you don't have to share this, but this is just for personal reflection. So I'd like to share a little personal story. So I am a victim of cancer of the mind myself. So I'm recovering, because there are different cancers of the mind which help to create and cause a very negative mindset. And when we get stuck in this mindset, it's quite difficult to come out of it, actually. Anyone finds when they get maybe angry? Anyone's ever been angry? You look like the nicest people in New York I've seen so far. And I can't imagine any of you get angry about anything, right? But some of you have gotten angry once a long, long time ago. Maybe if you didn't get angry, you might know someone who gets angry. So anger is one of those kind of negative mindsets. So it's really difficult to break these kind of negative mindsets. So I myself am someone who's just trying to work on this myself. And the more I realize, the more I look, the more I see that needs to be worked on. It's like that. I don't know if you ever had that experience when you start cleaning something. Anyone here has ever cleaned anything? This is another thing I'll do. I'll ask lots of questions. So you have to raise your hands. You might want to alternate. That'll give you good exercise throughout the program. So have you ever noticed, like if you're going to clean your apartment or your house or something, and you start in one place, and then you're like, oh, there's a little bit more dirt over there. Oh, better lift that up. Oh my goodness, look at all that under there. And then you go to the closet that hasn't been opened in years, and you think, oh no. So it's like that. When you start to clean, sometimes you just think, God, this is never going to end. There's so much to clean. So it can be like that, but we have to start somewhere, right? So we're going to discuss specifically 3 different cancers of the mind, and there will be a quiz at the end. So if you don't take notes, God help you. God bless you. And only those who pass the quiz are going to get to eat tonight. That was the agreement I had, right? You're all okay with that? Okay. So I have this thing. Someone once challenged me to remember a person's name, and they were explaining that if you go into a room like this full of people and you get introduced and you start meeting everyone and you start to try to remember their names, how many of you think you'd be able to remember everyone's name at the end of the night? No. And then this friend, he said, but if I told you at the end of the night, I'm going to pull out one person and ask you, did you remember this person's name? And if you remember that person's name, I'll give you a check for $1 million. Do you think you might be a little more inclined to remember people's names? Isn't it interesting? All of a sudden within you, you feel like, hey, I'm really motivated now. Before it's like, I meet so many people, so many faces, so many names, who cares? $1 million, what's your name? His name is this, his name is that. Okay, what's your name? Okay, you're going to be thinking, you're going to be like, drilling it in. Anyone's kind of got that feeling? Yeah, so like that. So we're going to discuss these three cancers of the mind. Anyone would like to take a guess what might be 3 possible cancers of the mind? Yes, and what is your name? And don't ask me at the end, okay?
I'm Lucy.
Lucy!
Yes.
We love you, Lucy. I love Lucy.
Thank you.
Great. Most of the people in the room don't know what that means. only those over 45, probably.
I would say fear is probably up there.
Okay, that's brilliant, yes. Fear is a cancer of the mind. Very good. I agree with you on that one. Do you know what is the biggest fear? They did a poll, what most people are afraid of. What do you think most people are afraid of?
Fear of failure?
Afraid of failure. That's brilliant, yes. That's good. That wasn't number 1. Death. Death was number 2. Fear of failure is pretty close to what number 1 was.
Disappointment?
It's very similar, those 2.
Rejection?
Pain.
It's also, again, similar. Pain, yeah. Well, death is probably going to be pretty painful.
Judgment? Being judged?
Number 1 was public speaking. Many people are like, if you made them do what I'm sitting here doing now, they'd be like, ah!
Would that be like fear of being perceived more than fear of public speaking?
Yes, it's the same. Fear of being rejected, fear of being ridiculed, fear, all those things. But people are above death. They don't put me in a room in front of people and make me speak. So fear. Anyone else has a guess what might be one of the cancers of the mind? Yes?
Stress?
Stress. Very good, yes. Thank you. I agree with that one also. Yeah.
Envy?
Envy. Yes, very good. Anyone here has ever experienced envy? Yeah? Yeah, it's one of those things. Okay, one more. Anyone else would like to take another guess? Yes.
Procrastination?
Oh, procrastination. Now, from a monk, they never procrastinate about anything. They're up at 4:30 in the morning. Before that, they have to be 4 in the morning, 3:30. They don't procrastinate. Anyone here has ever procrastinated? Who here doesn't know what procrastination means? Okay. Yeah. Well, we're going to discuss 3 cancers of the mind, and they're all kind of related, but these are sort of causes of different things. No one said any of them, so that's good. That means it's going to be new to you. These are the 3 cancers of the mind that we're going to discuss today. Complaining, comparing, and criticizing. Yeah? Everyone knows what these mean? Anyone here has ever complained about anything? Like if that train goes by one more time, I tell you, what is up with that? And
It's therapeutic.
it's a what?
It's therapeutic.
It's what? Therapeutic, yeah. Okay. Comparing. Anyone here has ever compared themselves to someone else? Yes? Okay. And what about criticizing?
All the time.
Lucy's like, can't stop it. I love it. I am also addicted to criticizing. Like, that darn train, you know? So criticizing is, yeah, it's very powerful. Okay, we're going to get stuck in because they've given me a limited time. I usually talk for 2.5 to 3 hours, but they told me, 45 minutes or something at the most? And we have to leave time for questions, right? Okay. Huh?
Would be nice.
That would be nice, yes. Okay, so first we're going to do complaining. So since we all know what it is, the definition of complaining is the expression of dissatisfaction or annoyance about something or someone. Anyone here knows people that just complain all the time? Right? You got that friend who's like, as soon as you see them, you're like, hey, you don't even want to say, how's it going? Because you know they're going to go, I was like this, and then that happened, and as soon as I got there, this thing, and that one the other day, and it's like this, and one. And you're like, And how does it feel when you're with someone who just complains? How do you feel? Like, oh yeah, I love this. Complain more. Yeah? Anyone's like that when they're with someone who complains? No, it usually feels like, it's like, it just gets sucked out of you. So, first question. Oh, here's some other questions. How do you feel when you complain? How do you feel when you complain?
Irritated.
Okay, you feel irritated?
Helpless.
You feel helpless. Okay. You kind of agreed with that one, helpless? Frustrated. I thought you said refreshing for a minute. Frustrated. How do you feel, young man? What is your name? Ryder. All right, Ryder. Annoyed, yeah. I can't believe you're too young to complain. You know, I have this joke ongoing when I see young children, like much younger than you, Ryder, when they're like in baby strollers, and they're like crying, and the parents are like, oh, and I just look at them and I say, it's only going to get worse. This is the best time of your life. She's pushing you around for free, changes your diapers, buys your food, you have a place to live. Why are you crying? When you grow up, it's just going to get worse. But anyway, so complaining. So how does it feel to be complained about?
Draining.
Ooh, have you ever,
About.
about. I mean, I'm sure you're all such nice people. No one has probably ever been able to complain about you. But imagine, Lucy.
I would say hurtful.
Hurtful. Yeah. Like if you get word back to you, like your friend's like, the boss was really complaining about you, or this couple that you just met, they were complaining, or the other day someone complained about the way you cooked, someone complained about the way you sang, someone complained about the way you played mridanga, or the way he wears that hat, what is up with that hat? Someone's complaining about. How do you feel as soon as it's like deceitful,
Like
rejected, disappointed?
Sobering.
Okay, let's see, this is a monk. The thing with having a monk in the crowd, they're always going to give the right answer. It's very good when people complain about me. It's sobering. It helps me very much. Look, another monk has come. You heard us talking about complaining. He's like, but what are you all complaining about? Hari Hari. Nice to see you, Bruce. So complaining. So here's a little introspection. Just for yourself, think internally. Do I find myself complaining a lot about things? What do you think? Do you find yourself complaining a lot about things? You don't have to say it out loud, but if anyone would like to share, you're welcome. At the back, is that a smile of, no, I've never complained about anything in my, all the time. Tell me something you complain about. Besides that train that keeps going by.
My daughter's dad, he
your-
always pee and drip on the floor.
Your daughter's father pees and drips on the floor. Lord have mercy. I would probably complain about that. Even this monk here would complain about that. Okay.
So you can't complain.
So you can't complain. Okay, complaining. What else? Anyone else? What is it that we complain about? Do we usually complain about ourselves? Who here complains about themselves? Okay, that's interesting. And how do you complain about yourself? What is your name? Are you Ryder's sister? Okay, and what is your name? Ava. Ava, what do you find yourself complaining about yourself?
I'm annoying.
You think that you're annoying, and you complain. Who do you complain to about yourself?
Myself.
Okay, there you go. So I'm not the only crazy one. I thought I was the only one that talked to myself, but no, I'm complaining. You're complaining to yourself that, God, it must be so annoying. Anyone has those conversations with themselves? Oh my God, why did I do that? I'm so annoying. Why are you like that? I don't know. Why don't you shut up? I don't know. Who are you talking to? I don't know. Why am I talking like that? Right? It's like, oh my God, complaining. Okay, what else? Complaining. Someone said they complain about, another person said they complain about themselves. What do you complain about yourself in the back? What is your name, sir? Demori.
But you can call me just Demo.
It's Demori?
Demo. It's Demori, it's Georgian name.
A Georgian.
Yeah.
I love people from Georgia.
Oh, thank you.
Demori.
So Demo is much easier.
Okay, Demo.
So like
Demo.
complain about yourself. When I feel that I'm not good enough to accomplish my dream, you sit by yourself and think what you need to do to accomplish this dream. And
Yes.
if you just speak, just think and not do, it goes by complaining. And it's too easy to go complain because we're too lazy to just do something. So that's why we don't go back and start complaining about all this stuff.
Nice. This is good. Thank you for this deep and I could see a few heads nodding like that. Anyone kind of feels like that? Someone mentioned procrastination earlier, and you mentioned sometimes we feel lazy. We let ourselves down. We procrastinate. Why didn't I just get up? Who? Anyone here has trouble getting out of bed? Oh God, I'm not alone. Anyone has more than 2 alarms? 4.
Yes.
5. Okay.
Do 5 dogs count?
5 dogs. Wow.
They wake me up.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes the hardest thing to do each day is just get out of bed, right? Okay, so why do you think people complain so much? Yes, Demo.
Back in the time I was thinking about it, like only decision I came about was like they are trying to find solutions from the other people. That's why they're complaining and letting other people to understand what they're complaining about. Maybe someone will tell me how to do.
Okay, that's interesting thought. I'd like to follow that a little bit more, Demo.
I think it comes from like feeling dissatisfied.
Yes.
And that it's kind of like trying to find the source of like why I feel dissatisfied, and a lot of people will blame things outside of them, like, oh well, it's a bad day because the train was late, and then my bagel was bad, and then blah 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 blah.
So they're
It's
doing
like,
that because they're trying to find
but you're
the...
dissatisfied before that thing happens to complain about.
Okay. Well, my question about that, because both of you had very similar answers in a certain way. If you've ever had someone complaining to you, did you ever try to give them a solution?
Yeah.
How many people took it and just stopped complaining?
Many.
Many? My experience is a little different.
I feel that people get very defensive when they're in the state of complaining.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Anyway, just food for thought. Why do I? Forget about others, but it's sometimes easier to think about others. But when I start complaining, why? What am I actually trying to get out of that? Now, a little reflection. What do you think is the cure for complaining? If complaining is a cancer of the mind, it's something that's debilitating us in some way. It's deteriorating us in some way. Do you think that that's the case? It can be? Deteriorating? Just complaining all the time, complaining? So what would be a cure? Someone who hasn't said something. Yes, your name? Christina,
Hi.
what is the cure? We're looking for the cure.
Accepting the present moment as it is.
Accepting the present moment as it is. I just love that. Okay, Christina, I love that. That's nice. Someone else? Lucy, you were very quick raising your hand.
Expressing gratitude, practicing gratitude.
Ooh, very nice. Often the cure is just trying to do the opposite. So sometimes we may have a situation where we want to complain about something. Who finds that it's easier to complain than to find something to be grateful for? Isn't that weird? I was just talking to a really good friend of mine earlier, and he was sharing with me a whole subject about being grateful and how difficult it is, but once we create it, actually he was explaining to me that dopamine, have you heard of dopamine? Okay, not dope, I mean, but dopamine. It's a kind of chemical that gets released, and it gets released the most when you express gratitude. Doctors have said that if being thankful and being grateful was a drug, it would be the best cure for all ailments. To look for the good in a situation and to be thankful for it, to be grateful. So when the train comes, how can I be grateful? I can think, I'm so happy that that train exists because that's how I'm going to get home tonight. And I'm so grateful for that train because that's how all of you got here. And when I hear that train, I'm reminded that people are able to make their way all over this. You can just think of so many things, but you have to force yourself to do it, right? Unfortunately, in the material world, the general tendency is for us to lean more towards negativity than to positivity. There's a big explanation for that. We're not going to get into it, but it's just a general tendency that we go to the dark side before we go to the light. Isn't it? Anyone finds that? So we have to force ourselves, and this has to do with what sometimes we talk about called the modes of nature. That it just means that ignorance draws us more easily than goodness, like that. There's this wonderful prayer, some of you may be familiar with. I heard it many, many years ago. It used to be a deep source of meditation for me. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change. And then grant me the courage to change those things that I can. And then the last one is, please God, give me the wisdom to know the difference. Isn't that a powerful prayer?
This is incredible.
Yeah. Give me the serenity to just accept those things that I can't change in my life that go on. That train ain't gonna change. So I don't need the courage to change it. I have to have the wisdom to know what I can and can't change. But those things that I could make a difference with, just give me the courage to change that. Comparing. So the definition of comparison. Now, we need to stop by 8.
8:10 also, 8:15.
8:10, 8:15. We'll stop when the trains stop. So comparing. Definition: to examine the character or qualities of especially in order to discover resemblance or differences. So, comparing. Anyone here? So complaining is one thing. Everyone's got what complaining is, right? Comparing. When we compare, usually we compare, who here compares themselves to others? Yes, there you go. And when you think, you said Eva. Eva? Eva. So Eva, you said earlier you complained to yourself about being annoying. So if you think that you're annoying, how did you come to that point? Because there must be someone that you think isn't annoying. Or there must be a point in time where you think, oh, now I'm not annoying. And when I compare myself to that time, then I think now I'm annoying. So we're always comparing in one sense, actually. We're often comparing. And in life, there's this thing, keeping up with the Joneses. You ever heard that expression? Everyone went, like that must be again for only people over 45. So keeping up with the Joneses, it means not getting the Joneses, like, but keeping up with the neighbors. You know, oh, the neighbor's got a Mercedes, I got to get one. Oh, this one's on 6 figures, I need to get one. You know, that monk can chant 32 rounds a day. You know, I have to chant more. I have to meditate longer. You know, like that. Huh?
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good comparison, right? So that's the point. Sometimes comparing can be good. There are benefits and consequences. So some of the benefits is that comparing can actually, it can motivate us. We can be positively motivated to do better. It can help us to set new goals. We see, oh, it can be done. Oh, let me try for that now. And it can also raise our competitive spirit. Of course, being overly competitive and setting too high goals, all these things can also have their negatives. But the consequences is that sometimes comparing can lead us to feelings of failure or low self-esteem. Or we can have unrealistic standards, like it's not going to be possible. I'm not, there's, the story of I think it's the 4-minute mile. Like for years and years and years, like many years, no one could run under 4 minutes a mile. And then there was one guy somewhere who broke that record after many, many years of people trying to break the 4-minute mile. And then as soon as one person broke it, in the course of the next week or two, about 20 or 30 people did it. Because all of a sudden it became possible. So like that. So it is possible. Grandiosity or even delusions. The thing about comparing sometimes is that it just doesn't make sense. Because we compare ourselves to something like they say, apples and oranges. Okay, they're both fruits, but they're completely different. And like in this picture, sometimes people just have a different perspective on life. And it's not that their perspective is wrong. It's just that their perspective is different. It's their perspective. So who's right in this picture? Both are. That's right. But can you imagine them arguing? It's a 9. It's a 6. It's a 9. It's a 6. But both are actually correct. So sometimes instead of comparing for difference's sake, we can compare to try to find similarities or to understand the other person's perspective. And in one sense, it's very difficult to compare ourselves, especially to someone else, because each and every one of us is completely unique. You want to know how unique? Who here likes science? Okay, believe in science. So this is how unique you are. 10 to the 2,400,000,000th power. That's how unique you are. That is the combination of DNA molecules, the different ways they can unite. This is like science. DNA molecules can unite in this many. Oh, I didn't notice that green streak. I'm going to complain about that to the management. Ruining all these slides, my God. That's beautiful. Isn't that decorate things so nicely? Makes it look good, right?
Nice.
Keeps your attention flashing. So the number is 10 to the 2,400,000,000th power. If you were to write that number out, with each zero being 1 inch wide, you'd need a strip of paper 37,000 miles long. That's how unique you are. So how can we compare something so unique to someone else who's so unique? In the Gita, Krishna describes how each and every one of us is a unique spark of his splendor, a divine spark of the splendor of God. Each and every one of us is unique and special in our own way. You can't compare two unique things and try to, do you understand? Oh, why is he rich? Why am I poor? Why is she beautiful? Why am I ugly? Why is this one like that, that one? It's just we're unique in our own special way. And also, he explains that each and every one of us is endowed with unique talents and abilities. No one can do the things that you can do the way that you do it. So instead of comparing, we have to celebrate our uniqueness. Does that make sense? Instead of thinking, why aren't I like them or why aren't they like me, we can think, isn't it amazing how unique they are? And isn't it amazing how unique I am? What is my strength? What can I bring to this? Does that make a little bit of sense? But again, it's changing that mindset. Because the cancer is to compare and find fault. Often when we compare, we find fault, either with ourselves or with someone else. Criticizing. Okay. Everyone still with me, or have I lost anyone? Okay. But you all are like, this guy's going on too much. You're starting to complain in your own mind, aren't you? Now you're starting to criticize. So the definition of criticizing is to find fault, to judge unfavorably or harshly. So there's a story from the Mahabharata, which is where the Bhagavad Gita is found. And a king, he asked, or a great person, not a king, but a great person, he asked two people to go out and do two different things. One person he asked to go out of the kingdom and return after finding someone who is less qualified than him. Does that make sense? Go out into Brooklyn, all of you, and find someone who's less qualified than you. Right? Less qualified. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. The other person he asked to go out the kingdom and find someone better than himself. Does that make sense? So one person is meant to go out and find someone less than him, and the other person's meant to go out and find someone greater than him. So the one who was meant to find someone greater, he came back very quickly and he said, there isn't anyone greater than me in this kingdom. And the other person came back and he said, I just can't find anyone who's lower than me. So it says a lot about the character of these two different people, right? So like that, the tendency is to criticize. So again, the question is, why do I do it? Why do I openly criticize? Anyone has any suggestions? Why do I openly criticize? Why do I criticize others?
You think we're better?
Yes. You think you're better than them? Okay. It might also be that we think they're better, and therefore I have to find some holes in them to make myself better than them. Does that sound about right? Okay. Yes. Oh, no, don't. No.
There goes your $1 million.
No, I'm not going to lose. I haven't given up yet. Ryder. Got it. $1 million, please. No checks. Yes, Ryder.
As like a coping mechanism.
Ooh, as a coping mechanism. And what would you be coping with, Ryder?
This,
You're absolutely correct. But just what sort of things might you be trying to cope with, and if you start kind of finding fault in others?
not sure.
You're not sure. Okay, but that was a great answer, and it's exactly correct. So thank you, Ryder. Anyone?
I think I would like to add what Ryder mentioned. Oftentimes when you're criticizing, you're coping with your discontent,
Yeah.
with your unhappiness or your fears.
Very nice. Yeah, so discontent, unhappiness, my own fears, insecurities,
Insecurities.
like we were talking here. Okay. Some common motivations for criticism are gaining a sense of superiority. I have to get on top. Getting back at someone who has hurt us. Yeah? What were we saying? Yeah, he talked about my hat or my mridanga playing, right? He was criticizing my mridanga playing. Well, yeah, do you see the way that guy was playing cartels? You know? So we immediately kind of strike out. Asserting our position or belief as the best or only way. My way is the best way, and it can only be done this way. There's only one way to clean the house. There's only one way to wash the dishes. There's only one way to cook like this. But is that true, actually? No, it's unlimited ways to do just about everything. Avoid scrutiny of our own shortcomings. So we kind of hide behind it. Yes? So like that. So a great saintly person, he made this statement. When faults in others misguide and delude you, have patience, introspect, find faults in yourself. Know that others cannot harm you unless you harm yourself. So when the tendency is there in us to criticize others, stop. Introspect and see, because they say you can only see something bad in others because it's there in us also, like that. And so there's an expression in Sanskrit, adosha darshi, which means he never sees others' faults. And the analogy that's often given in the ancient texts of India is that of the bumblebee. That the bumblebee is always looking for the nectar, the honey, the sweet stuff, always looking for the good stuff. But the fly is often found, in not such nice places. And another analogy is like the swan that swims on the, floats along the beautiful lotus-filled lakes. Or the crow that's found on the garbage heaps. So what is our consciousness? What are we thinking? Are we adosha darshi? Are we trying to find the good things? So the next time we feel the urge to say something negative about someone, we should stop and ask ourselves, what is my motive for saying this? Will this help the other person? Will this help me spiritually? Right? We can reflect and ask, are these things actually going to be beneficial for me? Am I trying to help the other person? Why am I doing this? Why am I actually critical? So we have to interrupt it. So I'm going very fast now because we have to finish, so I hope you can keep up. I'm going to talk a little bit faster. Are you still with me? You got it? We're rolling. We are rolling. Okay, here we go. So the cure, again, in Bhagavad Gita, there's a beautiful verse that explains, for him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends, but for one who has failed to do so, the mind will remain his greatest enemy. So we have to make friends with our mind. We have to get that mind under control. And then the American Indians, they use this analogy that within the mind, remember earlier we were arguing within our own mind? Why did you act like this? Why did you do that? I don't know why I did that. I'm so annoying. I'm not annoying. You are annoying. Yes, you are. Right? Anyone? We said already? So they describe that within every person there are two dogs, the good dog and the bad dog, and they're always fighting for supremacy. Anyone has that experience sometimes? You got we talk about the good guys and the bad guys. They're not out there. They are in here. And they're fighting. The question is, which dog wins? Which dog wins?
Whichever you feed most.
Oh, God, you've been here before, haven't you? You're like a wannabe monk, aren't you? Just kidding. So, yeah, whichever dog you feed the most, because it becomes the strongest. So the next time, the propensity to complain, the propensity to compare, the propensity to criticize starts to happen, you have to know that that is the bad dog. Bad dog! And you have to not feed it. And then by not feeding that dog, you automatically feed the good dog. But if you consciously become grateful, appreciate, find the good qualities in another, then automatically we're feeding the good dog like that. So in this way, we have to become a yogi. Anyway. Awareness, addressing, and amending. So first we become aware, then we address the matter, and then we change it. So a friend of mine uses the term spot, stop, swap. First we spot it. Oh, I just caught myself, I was complaining. Then you have to stop complaining and then change up the complaint, swap it for some gratitude, something to be grateful for. Just change your mind. Try it. It's not easy, but it can be fun. And remember, if you become more grateful in life, you'll get more dopamine pulsing through your system and you'll be like, wow, I love this stuff. I'm just going to be grateful all the time for everything and for everyone because it feels so good. Right? Like that. Yeah, so don't judge someone with a different disease. Don't expect anyone to be perfect. And don't think that you are perfect. Yes? Of course, we're all perfect in our own way, but like that. And then humility and forgiveness are a big topic that we can discuss. That's another talk. So questions or reflections? And you said we had until 8:15? Latest. Yeah, got it. So we've got about 10 minutes. If anyone has any questions or reflections, any thoughts? Yes, hold on.
I never told you my name.
You didn't? Oh my goodness. See, that's why I didn't remember it. Okay, what is your name?
Shushu.
Oh, Shushu.
Yeah.
Okay, Shushu.
So, as a mother, when I feel like I'm criticizing my daughter when she's lazy, not doing her work as she's supposed to do, am I really being criticizing or is it a good helping for her benefits?
That's an awesome question. Who here feels like that's a really good question? Yeah. Even those who don't have kids. But everyone here has been a kid who's had a parent get on their case, right? So, well, what do you think? What's your thought on that?
Part of me feel like I am pushing her to be a better version of her. Part of me see my childhood trauma being pushed and I'm living the way I am without anything from the help from my parents actually. So should I really push her? So the good dog and bad dog, they're fighting inside.
Yeah. It can be a very challenging situation. I think if we have a position of responsibility where we need to correct or I guess, how would you say, correct or guide someone, then it might not be criticism. Like, let's say if you want to be a great runner or a weightlifter or a track star, some sport, you'll get a coach. Yeah? These days everyone gets a coach to do whatever they want to do, right? But now what do you expect of the coach? To just sit there and say, wow, you're so good. No, the coach is meant to push you and help you to improve and point out things. No, if you try it like this, it'll be better. You can do it like this, right? So in that situation, that it can be good. But I guess in the situation that you're in, we have to be very careful. One wonderful saintly person, he said, we have to know how to bend people without breaking them. And that's a real art. And generally, people respond more to positivity than they do to negativity. In the sense that if someone is encouraged and appreciated and taught gratitude, they will blossom more than if it's just like, why are you like this? Why are you like that? Does that make sense? So in our own life, try to think, like, I have a friend who's a mother, and she was sharing with me a realization she had that she used to tell her child, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. And it was like that was her magic mantra for the kid. Don't. And it was all don't. And then she's thinking the kid is, or no, right? Anyone heard that when they were a kid? Any parents who use that word a lot? No. And then she realized, my God, the only thing my kid is learning is don't and no. And then she realized, no, I have to actually engage positively. So instead of saying, don't do this, I say, oh, why don't you try this? Or try this. And then she started creating positive engagement for the child. Instead of just saying, no, she started saying, yes. And she found that the child actually responded and became much more satisfied with a new toy or a new item or a new conversation like that. Just a thought. Someone else? Any reflections or thoughts? Yes, and I didn't get your name either. I'll come back to Lucy. She likes to talk, that Lucy. We know she's giving the talk next week, actually. What's your name?
I'm Bella.
Bella.
Yes.
Nice to see you, Bella.
Good to be here. You can just piggyback off of what you said, what you asked earlier.
I was going to ask about good criticism, especially when it's so challenging to I guess, give or guide on good criticism, or even some of us sometimes it's challenging for us to receive good criticism, maybe from a teacher, maybe from a professor, maybe from an elder. But it's just, you actually touched on some of it, but I just wanted to say that was a great question because it had me thinking, and I was really pondering about how do we really accept criticism that's meaningful for us without, I think the person who's criticizing, yes, it's good to reflect, but the person also receiving the criticism, which I think can be helpful, but sometimes it's so hard, it's so challenging to accept wise counsel,
Yeah, it's amazing. And this is such a beautiful topic, and thank you for that, Bella. Even if you have a person that you love and trust with all your heart, if they say to you, why did you do it like that? It like, oh, wow. It's like they took a knife and just went. Anyone has that experience? If on the subway, like somebody bumps into me, I'm like, don't you see me standing here? Yeah, anyone has that experience? You're walking down the street, someone bumps into you. This is called false identification or ego, right? And believe it or not, we all have ego. I hate to break it to you. Those of you who are thinking like, I don't have any ego. What the hell is you talking about? No, well, that's ego right there. So we all have ego, and the ego is like this crazy thing. It surrounds us, and it's just this false impression of who we might think we are. And even we're not really sure we're that. But somehow we think we might be that. And anyone who bumps into it, it's like, you know, how dare you, endanger my impression of who and what I am. And we often will strike out to protect that identity. It's a matter of identity protection. Like these days they have identity thieves. So like we're protecting our identity, this false identity. And so even if someone we love and trust with all our heart criticizes us, it hurts so bad. Now sometimes we'll go away and we'll think about it and we'll come back and be like, you were right. But it takes time, and we have to absorb it into that, through that thick layer of false impression of who we think we are. Which is why with children, if we try to use, there's a saying called in like a needle and out like a plow. That you go in really, oh, you're so nice, so beautiful, so lovely, but there's a few things here that need to be worked on, and you kind of pull it out. Does that make sense? So sometimes the full-on confrontational approach doesn't really work. Sometimes we might need to try a different approach with our criticism. Even, now of course if someone is paying you to be their critic, like there's a story of some of these great warrior kings, when they used to go out to fight, they would have one man who would be right beside them when they would re-enter the kingdom after being triumphant, who would keep repeating in their ear, you aren't the greatest. There are those people out there who are better than you, who would keep their ego in check. Because if you do something right, you think, yeah, look at me. These things are all very natural. We shouldn't think that it's not natural. But somehow we have to learn to keep these things in check. And these are some good questions the next time you go to criticize someone, or you're thinking critically about someone, that what is my motive for saying this? Will this actually help that person? Am I genuinely trying to help that person? And then, will this help me spiritually or help me in general by saying it? Or is it going to damage our relationship and ruin our relationship? So then we have to weigh up, is it actually really worth it? Something like that. So I think I might be out of time, and I think it might be time for all of us to do a little exercise, yes? But before we do that, we're going to do a test tonight, Hadai, and only those who pass the test get to eat. So those who came late, we're really sorry, you've already failed. So no prasad. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. Oh, Lucy, yes. And the final say comes from Lucy.
I have nothing to add. Everything was awesome, actually. The mantra, I forgot, because you went by that really quickly. Awareness, addressing, and amending. What was the mantra?
Oh, yes. So this was awareness, addressing, and amending. Spot that I'm doing something, then stop doing it, and then swap.
Okay. Thank you.
Spot, stop, swap. Awareness of it, then I address the matter, and then I amend it, like that. Okay? I thank you all very, very much for your kind attention. You were very alert, except for the few of you who kept falling asleep, but that's okay. I'm not criticizing you at all. I think it's amazing that you could sleep through the talk that I just gave. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everybody, for your attention. Let's give another big round of applause to James, guys.